She laughed at my suit in public, Vinaya. That was the day I stopped trying to impress her.
I wore the only suit I owned to my wife's sister's wedding. It was clean, neatly pressed, and fit me well enough, but it wasn't expensive or fashionable. I didn't think much of it until my wife looked at me and laughed. She said loud enough for others to hear that I couldn't afford anything better. People around us smiled awkwardly. I smiled too, pretending it didn't hurt. Over the years, I had learned to swallow moments like that. I worked a steady job, paid our bills on time, and truly believed that a person's dignity mattered far more than their appearance. My wife, however, cared deeply about how things looked. Her family was wealthy, loud, and completely obsessed with status. In their world, I was always the quiet one in the background, the man who just didn't quite belong. At the wedding, she made sure I felt it. She walked ahead of me, greeted relatives without ever introducing me, and corrected the small things I said as if I were a child. Every joke about money seemed to land on me. Every comparison always favored someone else. I kept telling myself it was just one day. I told myself that love meant patience, that this was a test I just had to pass. But later that evening I noticed something that truly unsettled me. She laughed differently with a man I didn't recognize. It was a genuine, unguarded laugh I hadn't heard in years. The way she touched his arm lingered just a little too long. When I finally got a chance to ask who he was, she brushed it off, saying he was just a family friend. Her tone made it absolutely clear that the conversation was over. The drive home was cold. She brought up the suit again. She talked about how her sister's new husband was so successful, so ambitious, so impressive. Then she said that people at the wedding were probably wondering why she ever settled for someone like me. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself, I just listened. That silence, I later realized, was the beginning of my clarity. It was the moment I stopped trying to be understood and started to just understand. Over the following weeks, the disrespect grew bolder. She criticized my job, my car, my ambitions. The comparisons to other men became a daily routine. She stopped hiding her phone and didn't seem to care if I noticed her late-night texts. One night, she laid it all out for me. She told me that if I wanted to stay married to her, I had to accept things unconditionally. That sentence echoed in my mind. It was a demand for my silence, for my submission. From that point on, something inside me shifted. I stopped trying to explain myself, to justify my worth, and started paying attention instead. I noticed her schedule didn't add up. I noticed how often she mentioned that same man from the wedding, the supposed family friend. I noticed how little effort she made to hide her contempt for me. For the first time, I stopped trying to earn her respect and started focusing on protecting my own. The truth revealed itself without much effort on my part. She wasn't just disrespectful. She was unfaithful. The man she admired so openly was the same one she was disappearing with on weekends. When I finally put it all together, I felt a surge of anger, but beneath that was a surprising and overwhelming sense of relief. It was like a heavy weight had been lifted. I finally understood that the problem was never my suit, my salary, or my silence. The problem was that I was trying to fill a role I was never meant to play in a story that was never about us. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I focused on myself. I worked harder, not to prove anything to her, but to reclaim the confidence I had lost along the way. I took on extra projects, improved my skills, and quietly saved every dollar I could. I was planning an exit, one that was based on logic and self-preservation, not emotion. When I finally spoke to her, it was calm. I didn't accuse or insult her. I simply told her that I knew everything. I told her I was done accepting disrespect disguised as honesty. But then her face changed. She saw something in my eyes she hadn't seen before, and she panicked when she realized I wasn't bluffing. She immediately tried to remind me of her family, her connections, the lifestyle she provided, but none of it mattered anymore. None of it could buy back my dignity. The divorce was ugly for her and surprisingly simple for me. The man she chose, the one who seemed so impressive, vanished the moment real responsibility showed up. Her family, once so proud and loud, grew silent. The mockery finally stopped when there was no audience left to entertain. Months later, I attended another wedding, a friend's this time. More importantly, I stood taller. I felt different. I had learned that real wealth isn't about what you wear or what you own. It's about what you refuse to tolerate. It's about the respect you command for yourself. I was no longer the quiet man in the cheap suit she mocked. I was the man who walked away. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever felt like you've had to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's world, I hope this reminds you of your own strength. Remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories. See you next time.